slightly higher, and we got a consolidation right here as well. So if you kind of like extrapolate, push towards all the way to that 3009 with Donald Trump winning the elections last week, and with the Federal Reserve also cutting rates by another 0.25%. We have seen renewed strength in the markets, with markets pushing to an all-time high. So where are we right now? Could it be even more bullish as we head into 2025? Hey guys, Joey here, top tier mindset trader in Phillips Securities, and in this video I'll be diving into the markets, right? The Dow Jones, the S&P 500 index, the Nasdaq, and even Singapore's Straits Times index to see where are we for each of the index, right? What are some of the key levels we have broken, what are some of the new targets that have came out, and where can we potentially head to as well. So if you want to know where we are right now for the markets, and if you could end 2024 on a high, make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. Let's go. So this is the Dow Jones trading at about 44,293. So you can see right over here that we have finally broken above the recent high around at 43,300. That was where we were in October. We sold all the way down to near the support around 41,500, and started to see that rebound happening. So you can see that, for Dow Jones, like I've mentioned in my previous video as well, we have been in an uptrend, I would say, in the longer term since last year, right? Somewhere around 2023, beginning of 2023, just by looking at what we call the 100 days moving average, the red line, and the 200 days moving average. So both of these lines, you can see they are both pointing up since last year. The red is above the blue, so longer term uptrend has been intact. Of course, in the short term, we did see a bit of a pullback somewhere in July last year, somewhere in March, somewhere in July this year as well. But every time we put back down a little bit, buyers came back and we pushed even higher. We broke a resistance and we find another higher support. So that's a good thing, right? And you can see that previously as well, somewhere in July and August, we saw actually a little bit of a resistance here, right? But you can see September, we broke above, went to a high. October, right, found a new high, came back down, and right now in November, you can see that we have again found a new high by breaking above that 43,300 resistance. So what could be the potential targets that we can hit to? Well, you can see that it is an all-time high. So if you look at the left, there's nothing to see on the left, so there's nothing that we could deduce from the left in terms of resistance that some profit taking might come back again. Looking at the entire market from a technical point of view, right? So what could be done is that we can do a little bit of extrapolation. You can see that the consolidation for Dow Jones, right over here, is around that 2000 to 2005 range. Right over here, you can see a little bit of consolidation. Just the beginning of the year, same thing, the consolidation was slightly higher, and we got a consolidation right here as well. So if you kind of extrapolate, I would say that the next upside targets could be anywhere maybe around that 45 to 46,000 level. So let me just go to put about 46,000. Let me just draw this resistance level right over here. I think that's potentially where some profit taking can come back again, right? And if you take a look at the short-term trend, as I mentioned, right, for the longer-term trend for the Dow Jones, for the market, right, it was pretty much up since last year. But for the short-term trend, you can see that every time we consolidate, right, in terms of moving sideways, and that's what actually happened, right, in July, August, and September. We can look at the 20 days moving average. You can see this green line actually started to flatten out. So once it flattened out, it means that we are back to some sideways consolidation in the short term, right? So you can flatten out a little bit. You can see point up, we broke the resistance, continue to point up, and it actually flattened out a little bit over the past 1 month, right? But what happens over the past few days, you can see that this green line, all right, has started to slope up a little bit, right? Slope up a little bit as we attempt to break to an all-time high. So not too bad, right? So the short-term trend starting to turn up as long as we stay above this new resistance turn support level. So let me just turn this line from red to green in color around at 43,300, right? Or maybe 43,000. I think that's where the uptrend looks pretty intact, all the way up to 45 to 46,000, right? So this is Dow Jones. Looks like we are ending this year on a high. Even next year, right? If we were to break 46,000, targets can be revised higher. So what we're going to see, is we're going to see a bit of maybe it pushing higher and higher to a certain level, maybe a bit of a consolidation, a bit of a retracement, like what we've seen in October, like what we've seen in July, and that will be healthy as well, right? It will be more sustainable if we see a period of no profit taking, and then it comes back down a bit, find a support, and pushes back up. That would be what we call a healthy uptrend, all right? And I think that's exactly what Dow Jones would be doing, right? So not too bad. Next one, the S&P 500 index, right? The code is SPX, right? At about 6 thousand right now. So same thing, right? We have broken to an all-time multi-year high for the S&P 500 index. You can see that over the past 1 to 2 months, we were actually consolidating sideways from about 5670. So let me just draw it for you. You can see that it was actually a bit of a resistance since July. All right, same thing, a bit of resistance, came down, but finally in September we broke above this level and it became a new support level, which is the 5,670, right? So rebounded, and we still found selling or some resistance at that 5,900 level, right? So went up, came back down, retested, and of course over the past week, same thing like the Dow Jones, we have broken above the 5,900 level. Now it's like 6,000, right? So not too bad, right? It shows that we're attempting to push a little bit higher, and longer term trend is up, as you can see from the 100 days and 200 days moving average. For the short term trend, you can see that the same thing, right? This green line, all right, this 20 days moving average line, which was up, flattened out a little bit. Now it is starting to point up as we attempt, all right, that move above 5,900. So I think potential upside targets could be maybe all the way towards the 6,200. I think right over here, let's just put about 6,200. Then that is potentially where we might see a bit of a consolidation, a little bit of a pullback, some sideways movement in the short term. Perhaps the 20 days moving average line will move up, flatten out over here, and that's fine as well. That just shows that we are consolidating at a higher level, a new phase up, all right, and I think it looks pretty bullish for 2025 as well for the S&P 500 index. Let's take a look at Nasdaq, right? That tracks the top technology stocks in the US market, trading at about 19,298. So not too bad, same thing, right? We have pushed to an all-time high as well, all right? We have broken this very key resistance level around the 18,000, I would say 700 level. You can see right over here somewhere in July, we touch it. So all the way down, all right, and over the past 2 weeks, same thing, we neared it, came back down a little bit, but the past 2-3 days we managed to break above as all the markets pushed to a new high. All right, so right over here we have broken the 18,680, let's just say about 18,800 for now. Let me just shift this up a little bit, and that would now be a new support level. So let me just turn this line to green in color. All right, so you can see for the Nasdaq, right, it was a little bit more volatile, compared to the Dow Jones, which was like a very gradual uptrend, right? But for the Nasdaq, longer term trend has been up, but we did actually see quite heavy selling in the short term a few months back. You can see right over here somewhere in July and August, we sold all the way down, right? Sold all the way down. But as we sold down, you can see buyers started to come back up. We actually found higher support levels along the way, right? All the way from April to now, there were higher supports that were being found. That means buyers came back out and pushed the market even higher, or back to the usual resistance level, consolidate, and then we start to push even higher again, right? So you can see that was where the green 20 days moving average line was like down, started to point up. Same thing, right? Down, started to point up, right? Down here, point up. And right now, based on the short-term trend, you can see that the 20 days moving average line, it was like up, right? Flat a little bit. Now, same thing, starting to point up as well as we attempt to break, let's just say, the 18,800 resistance level. So 18,800 would now be like a new, I would say, support level. So longer term trend is up, the short term trend is up as well as we break above the 18,800, and upside targets could be towards the psychological 20,000 levels. Let me just draw this line right over here. I think 20,000 would be a very key psychological level. It's $20,000. That's where we may see a bit of a profit taking, a bit of a retracement. I think that's fine as well, right? Maybe we might just consolidate below 20,000 for a while, maybe up to the end of the year, or maybe to beginning of next year. And if you breach that 20,000, I think that would be something really bullish, can trigger a whole new momentum in the market. All right, and that's where targets could be revised even higher, right? So not too bad. I think this is the Nasdaq composite that tracks the technology stocks. We are seeing strength in many of those tech stocks coming back. I think next year looks to be a pretty bullish year as well, all right, as more rate cuts comes in, and that's where we could see more upside momentum. So let's take a look at the Singapore's Straits Times Index, the STI, which is trading at about 3,711. So are we at an all-time high like the Dow Jones, the S&P, and even the Nasdaq? Let's find out, right? You can see right over here, let me just scroll all the way to the back, right? It seems like we are an all-time high. Let me just scroll back a little bit more, but actually not. So you can see the price now is about 3,711, but somewhere in right over here, when is this, right? This is where It was in 2007, right over here, 2007. I was still an undergrad, right? Probably just playing the stock market then. And the high then was at about 3,850, I would say, right over here, right? About 3,009, all right? 3,009, that was kind of like the high in 2007. All right, you can see it started to push all the way down. It was due to the global financial crisis, and I lost a ton of money, all right, because I didn't know what I was doing there. And you see, went all the way down. So we are almost, right, at the all-time high. Not really yet. Maybe going back down, going back up to the 2007 level at about 3,900 level. All right, so let me just zoom all the way back to see what has happened over the past 1 over year. All right, so you can see for the STI, it looks a little bit different, I would say, from the Dow Jones and even the S&P and the Nasdaq. You can see for the US markets, they have been in an uptrend, I would say, since last year, very gradual uptrend. But for STI, I would say that since last year, right, I've mentioned in my previous video, right, we will actually consolidating in terms of the longer term trend, right? Let me just draw this for you. You can see that since last year or maybe 2 years back, it was pretty much sideways, right? Just moving, swing up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Just sideways in this range from maybe about 3,000 to 3,500. That was like a 500 kind of like point range. We're just moving sideways. You can see the longer term trend, the red and the blue line. It's not really moving up. It's not really moving down. It's just moving sideways. So sideways for the past 2 years, I would say. Well, of course, in the short term, we're up and down in this 3,000 to 3,500 range. But this, move or this bullish move really started, I would say, somewhere around like July and September after breaking some of the key resistance level. You can see we're consolidating here. We kind of like broke the 3,300, went all the way up, and finally, same thing, we have retested the 3,005. Of course, there's some profit taking, came back down near where the longer term moving averages were, all right, and we saw a rebound again, right? So in order to see the uptrend forming, right, same thing like the US market as well, you need to break what we call a very key level, a resistance level that you have been trading below for a couple of years, all right? And for the STI, that would be the 3,500. Like I mentioned, right, 3,500 will be a very key level. And finally, yes, indeed, in September, we managed to break, all right, the 3,500 level, which became, actually, you see, right over here, went up, consolidated below like the 3,650. So 3,650, I'll come to that in a bit, but it was a bit of a resistance. But the fact is that we actually stayed above this new, all right, 3,500 level. So right over here, it was a resistance. We stayed above it. In fact, got a bullish candle right here, rebounded above. So 3,500 would be, the base right now, all right? Or that, the uptrend can form as long as we stay above the 3,500. You can see as we stay above the 3,500, now, all right, the red and blue line that I was talking about, it was like pretty much sideways and flat for the past 2 years, right? The red and blue line, all right, which kind of give a gauge of the longer term trend, has started to point up, right, even more firmly, I would say, over the past 2 to 3 months. So not too bad, right? There are indeed some signs of the longer term trend turning up for the STI, and of course, over the past few days as well, same thing, we have breached to a new multi-year high, not an all-time high yet, all right, that would be like 2007 level, or 2007 level, that was like about 3,900, right, which I mentioned just now. So maybe it'll be right over here, right? Yeah, I think right over here, let me draw this resistance level. That would be like the high that we have seen. Okay, let me just all the way back, yeah, right over here, the 3,900. So I've drawn this red resistance line. Let me scroll all the way back to the front. And yeah, 3,900 would be a very, very critical level that we might attempt to hit to as we end 2024, or maybe even early into next year as well. I think that would be a very key level. If we can break the 3,009, yes, then indeed we have broken to an all-time high finally. But we've got up above that resistance we have seen, right, even before the global financial crisis happened in 2007, 2008. All right, so let's see what will be the new support level right now for the STI. So you can see, right, as I mentioned, we saw a bit of consolidation after breaking 3,005. We went up all the way to about 3,650, right over here. You can see, right, that's where we touched, we came down, same thing, touch, came down, but past 3-4 days managed to see that move above that 3,650. And when that happened, right, you can see that the 20 days moving average line right over here, it was like flat, right? I mean, as we consolidate sideways for about a month plus, all right, started to point up, right? So that's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? So I think potential upside targets could be from, okay, let me just turn this to green in color. So 3650 could potentially be a new support level right now. I mean, you're gonna put like 3006 to 3650, I think right over there, right? All these would be new support levels for the STI to gradually push towards all the way to that 3009, maybe to 3008, right over here. I think that's where potential might hit there. All right, maybe see a bit of a profit taking, a bit of sideways consolidation. All right, but overall, I think it looks pretty bullish, right, as we end 2024, and next year looks even more bullish, right? If you can even break the 3009 or 4000, the market would turn even more bullish. It could even be a bull market. So there we have it, guys. I've covered the Dow Jones, the S&P 500 index, the Nasdaq, and even the Singapore Straits Times index. So I hope you found this video useful technically, right? You have taken note of some of the key levels, what are some of the levels that have broken, which became a new support level, and why we are still bullish, right? In the longer term, not only in the longer term, but also in the short term as well. And there's some signs of it moving up, momentum increasing as well, as long as we stay above those support levels that I talk about, right? So look forward to see you in the next video as well. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the follow button. That would definitely help out the channel. Thank you so much for doing that. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.